Welcome back and thank you for keeping it Switch TV. With the growth of digital centers across the country and many people adopting digital entrepreneurship, many entities are leading the way to address youth unemployment through digital inclusion. Our very own Apollo James had a conversation with the digital entrepreneur who explains that by tapping into the new digital opportunities, we can create more suitable and decent employment.
Tell us about Digitali, where it all began.
Okay. So Digitali is about 18 months old. We are a network of about 480 digital centers. In fact, I think we are close to 500 now in peri-urban and rural areas. We work with digital centers across the country. We are in 45 out of 47 counties. And it's just been a really, really exciting journey. So when we started out, we thought this was going to be a franchise. But given the pandemic, COVID and everything, it ended up being a network. So currently we are maybe 70% of our network is in the peri-urban and rural areas, which makes a lot of sense because that's really where we have a lot of micro enterprises that need more access to tools, resources, training, etc.
You've mentioned about trainees. What criteria do you look for before you get to identify these centers?
The first item on the criteria is being in existence for 6 months, and then the second one is they have to have a minimum of 3 computers at their locations. And the reason for that is because a lot of the trainings that we carry out and some of the B2B initiatives that we are running need for them to have some computing ability at their location. So those are the only 2 criteria really. And of course they have to be ambitious, right? They have to have dreams of wanting to grow. Otherwise, if they join the network, they won't benefit significantly from it if they don't also have a desire to grow their business.
How do you support these centers?
So let me talk about it from a broader perspective, which is how do we support the cyber cafes that come into our network and become Digitali centers. There's 3 things that we mainly do. One is capacity building and training, and I can talk about that a little bit. The other one is asset financing, because we discovered that micro entrepreneurs form a pretty significant part of the credit gap. They are underserved by the traditional financial institutions and the commercial lenders. And in some cases, they don't necessarily have the kind of records that they need to be able to access a loan, whether it's from a SACCO or whether it's from a financial institution. So we do asset financing. And we do a lot more with regards to asset financing than just giving them the money. In fact, our route is very non-traditional. And then the third thing we do is we recently launched a B2B, which is basically we have clients who, so when we started off this project, we had a lot of partners that we were engaging with. And as we grew the number of digital centers we had, and as we grew to the 45 counties that we are in, we had clients who would approach us and they would say, I have a really good foothold of my product or my services in the Nairobi area, but I've been trying to figure out how to go beyond Nairobi. So for example, if I wanted to go to Oyugis or Homa Bay or Kisii or Kirinyaga, how exactly do I go to those areas, given that, we were having COVID, we're having the pandemic, cash flow was a big challenge for businesses, and no one wanted to spend a significant amount of money on infrastructure. So whether it's overheads, painting an office, hiring staff, etc. And the clients who were reaching out to us were asking us, is there a way we can use your digital centers? One, to test the viability of our app, product, or service, and is there a way that we can get into an arrangement where we can use some of your digital centers to help us maybe access or get a foothold into some of those areas? So that is what brought about B2B. So the 3 things we do with our digital centers is opening up revenue generating opportunities from clients that we engage. Secondly, asset financing, and then capacity building and training.
What are the major challenges you faced since inception of this project?
The challenges were in terms of rethinking. How do we pivot and how do we continue to make the kind of impact we want without going onto the ground, right? But the pandemic was probably a blessing in disguise for us more than it was for a lot of organizations, because when the pandemic happened, first, places of hospitality were closed and schools were closed, and also other businesses, right? And then people were working from home. Those are significant revenue streams for the digital centers we work with. They serve schools, they do all their NEMIS work, their TPAD, registration, etc., because now everything has moved online. When digital centers lost a significant part of their revenue, they were open to listening to someone who could give them a better way of building sustainability into running their businesses. So they were a lot more open and they were a lot more receptive to having conversations with us. But really the journey has been very much about us listening to the digital centers and identifying exactly what their needs are and then responding to those needs.
What are your last words to the viewers watching you tonight?
I think what I really want to say is that we used to think about cyber cafes as a hole in the wall, as basically, small micro businesses. But what I would like to challenge everyone to think about, whether you're with an organization or you're thinking of expanding your footprint, is to think of these digital centers as businesses that can be a partner as you go forward. They can help you expand your footprint, and they can really help you get your products into those demographics that have been hard to reach previously.
Thank you so much for creating time. It's been an insightful conversation.
See, winging it works. See, winging it works.